Yes, here we go. It's the P.M.P. 4-1 Celtic. We expected a fast start, Brendan. That's exactly what we got. It's been a fast 2 years, 2 years of the bus. We'll talk about that maybe towards the end, Terry. We can reminisce before I let you get off to your bed. We'll be finished here by 10:30. Those who are joining us, please remember to do all that good stuff. After 2 years, you must be familiar with all those traits by now, especially the sound of Terry opening a can. That's definitely going to be one of them. But yes, do all that good stuff. That means give us a wee like right now, give us a share. Slag the hair. That's absolutely fair as well. If you want to become a Bhoycie Bus member, like so many of you have over the last 2 years, then please do. The likes of Craig A, Gary Brown again, Scott Cameron, loads. Yes, it's normal. There's usually loads more to read out. Well, those listening on Spotify are going, thank fuck he's got through that bit quickly. There's usually loads on the YouTube, but hey, we're in a lot of competition at this time of night, Terry. There'll be loads of other pods out there for people to choose from. Each to their own, as always. What's the other one we need to do? Piesports.com. Tasty treat if you use the code BUS1888 at the checkout. That will definitely save you some money on your pastry favourites. And yes, Terry, P.M.P, it's been 2 years of the bus, but for a change, I would say, this time didn't feel like 2 years of watching Brendan Rodgers' new Celtic. He was asked the question at the presser. Me and Jonathan spoke about it on Monday. I like a man who's true to his word, Terry. He was asked, how do you expect to start the game? How do you expect to start the game this week? Fast. That was his reply. Right in the big one. Fast. Deadpan stare. Then a wee bit of a giggle after. Let's be real. Celtic started fast today. They seemed to take up with the left off the second half of the weekend. Listen, the lineup was totally different to what we're normally seeing. But the reason we're so adamant on this podcast, if you want to call it that, about first team competition is precisely what it brought tonight. And I'm not saying that some of the players that have been elevated to the first team today would have been Brendan's first choice for first team competition, if you like. But notwithstanding that, when they come into the team, you could see a bit of freshness about Celtic tonight. I preferred Cal might have been playing in a different position, but there seemed more impetus about the side. And you've got to give credit to those who've came in and took their opportunity when it's given. I think there's a higher standard we could have waiting in the wings, but maybe that conversation for once, Terry, can be left to another night. And we respect and we applaud the efforts that were put in by those who did come in tonight and made Celtic look a far more threatening side throughout the contest this evening.
First of all, Russell, congratulations to you on your 2 years of the bus. Well done.
I think congratulations to you, David Logue, Phil, Mark, Regan, who've all managed to hang in there. We'll maybe talk about it at the end.
I had a wee look back earlier. So I think I came on in February 2022 on the Double Down show. And then a couple of weeks later, came on to the post-match. I just was having a wee look back. It's hard to believe it actually has been 2 years. So fair play to you. I know there's been a lot of work, a lot of effort. A lot of people have put a lot more effort in than me. You've got a good team around you. So here's to many more years. Brendan's laugh the other day, I think part of it might have been a nervous laugh. I'm not sure he still knows quite what to expect from this squad of players from game to game. However, he got what he wanted. He got a fast start. You could see from the start we were having a laugh with Phil at the weekend there around some of the words that Brendan continuously uses in his pre and post match interviews. But you could see from an early stage that we were at it. The mentality was different to the weekend. The intensity was there. We were at it from the word go, and we didn't really relent until such times as the game was over as a contest and we started making changes. It became a wee bit disjointed second half. The introduction of Phillips for Carter Vickers. So hopefully that's nothing more than just giving the big man a bit of a rest. Probably find out more tomorrow around if there's any injury or anything like that. Then Ralston came on at left back and gave us normal, honest sort of performance, but he did look awkward, and I think it just got a wee bit disjointed second half once we'd made those changes. But the game was won in the first half. It was won by that rip-roaring start, which we kept up for all of the first half. I think the changes were ones that the support not necessarily were calling for, but I think we were expecting Mikey Johnson had done enough to warrant a start, given where we're at with the wingers at the moment in terms of who's available, who's had a go, who hasn't impressed. Mikey Johnson was probably due a start. Did he have a great game? No. He tried. He done his best. He was direct when he got the ball. He was always trying to make something happen. So,
do you know what, Terry? Though, do you know what? Remember we were saying there was like 3 statements we would make after each Celtic game. Remember we were saying that a few weeks ago, right? See the Mikey Johnson one. I think he's got a few catchphrases. He was direct. He took his man on. I think we're going down that road with Mikey Johnson as well. But I think we're going to say that after every performance, whether he plays well or whether he doesn't, we'll always be saying he was direct. He dribbled to the ball. It's a weird one with him, man, because I was glad he started as well, but I'm glad you've highlighted. I thought that was a start that we kind of predicted would occur.
That was one we were expecting. And Iwata was overdue one, I think. And again, because of Iwata's strengths and how he plays the game, he's not going to be as noticeable as perhaps some of the other players. But I thought he was very quietly effective in the role that he played tonight. In that section.
Very impressed by him.
As you said, then McGregor moved forward one, and McGregor looked a wee bit energised. Maybe that goal at the weekend has given him a bit of a boost as well. And then what that's probably done is that has left O'Reilly really just to play in that 10 role and wreak as much havoc as he possibly could. And then up front. Again, not a surprise that he got his opportunity. He done well. He's left there with 2 goals for himself, and they were quite opportunist, because the first one, he's obviously known very little about it. Carter Vickers has headed it towards goal and it's gone in off him. The second one was more impressive though, because there was a pass down the line that was meant for Palma, and has then wrestled with the defender. He's made it his, and he stuck it into the net. So you can't ask much more from your centre forward than 2 goals, and he is a handful. He gives us something totally different than Kyogo does, just in terms of size and stature. And I mean, I don't think we're at the stage where he's a real threat to Kyogo's place, but I think he warrants game time. And it's one game, okay, but I think domestically he's probably fine. And I know it probably at some point tonight you might want to talk about rumours linking us with a striker within the SPL, so we'll maybe leave that one to a bit later on. But I think we've seen enough of that he's not a better striker than Kyogo, but he is someone who will do a job for us at domestic level, I think.
Are you shuffling cards in the background there, Terry?
No,
I'm curious, mate. I'm curious. I was like, it sounded like.
Do you know what I'm doing? I'll tell you what I'm doing. I'm actually sticking a drawing pin into a piece of paper.
I think the piece of paper's me. I think I am the voodoo doll for Mr. Rob. It's a bit concerning, mate. Just keep me out of it, pal, right? Honestly, I don't know.
No, it's just one of those things. I'm glad you actually brought it up, because I'm sitting there going, like, what time did I start doing that, and how did I not know I was doing it?
I'm a bit like that, mate, once I open the first beer. I kind of get like that, mate. When did I start drinking these beers, and when did I notice I was drinking them? We've all been there, mate. Right, okay. Let's go through it then. A lot of points, as you're right to do, to summarise the game. So there's a lot to get through with all that. Firstly, the lineup, Terry. Obviously, you've touched on the Johnston one was earned. Iwata, you said you thought, it probably worked. I thought it worked for two reasons. I thought Iwata was playing in a position he looked far more comfortable than he did the appearance. That was only his sixth start for Celtic tonight. His sixth start since he joined in January. Now, there's taking time to get integrated into the group because you're coming from a different continent. And I think I've said numerous times he was probably had the perfect pathway to the first team if there were such a thing. I think in Celtic land, for want of a better description, I don't think there is such a thing. I think you join and you've either got the chops or you don't. And that's kind of how the fans view it as well. The fans love to talk, including myself, of, hey, give him time to get used to the team, used to the culture. See if you've not made their impact the first 4 or 5 months. We're already going, well, that position needs strengthened. We all do it, right? I don't know why it gets denied. Now, with Iwata, 6 starts has always had so far. It could have been a perfect pathway at the team, but I think it's led him to actually becoming the forgotten man almost. And also maybe getting utilised in a way that hasn't really shown what his best traits are. J-League Player of the Year, it's so easy to throw that line in, so I will, because I'll take advantage of any opportunity I get to sound like I know what I'm talking about. But when it actually comes to Iwata playing today, he looked like he was very assured, comfortable, covering those areas, being the sort of silent effect in the midfield, if you like. Cal McGregor gets a chance to play it in a role he's more comfortable and are more accustomed to, as we've been sort of brought up to be watching him over the last sort of decade. We're nearly a decade, you know what I mean? But Iwata's inclusion, I was impressed with. He should have scored at the end, and I thought that would have capped off a brilliant performance. Has this been? It's been a mad week for the manager in terms of his absolute no bullshit anymore approach to what he thinks required for the squad. But undeniably, one of the ruthless takes he has had, whilst I would call it a Brendan Light opening 5 months, Terry, has been a kind of cold shoulder to someone like Iwata. Whilst we've played, I don't know, pin the tail on the donkey when it's come to being the third midfielder. Turnbull 1 week, Bernardo for Europe, and suddenly Iwata's came in tonight. I thought he brought a bit of balance to the team. I think he looked very assured in the position himself. And also it got us, as I say, I've touched on, allows us to see Cal Mac in that role that I think we're all more familiar with, more accustomed to. Is that food for thought for the future? Or is it taking a calculated risk, with inverted commas, because we're at home at Hibs and expected to win the game anyway?
I suppose that'll play out, Bhoycie, in the coming weeks, whether he keeps his jersey. He didn't get long in the last game, but he did make an impact, and he's ended up getting a start. The surprising part probably is it probably looks as if Brendan doesn't really fancy him, but then the manager that brought him in, you could say the same, because he didn't play him. He didn't play him either. And he did come in with that, as you say, J-League Player of the Year reputation. And I suppose what you're thinking there is, well, we've got Kyogo, we've got Hatate. Those guys are on a pretty decent level. This guy was voted the best player in the J-League in the season before he moved to Celtic. So there maybe was an expectation level there as well. But You did hear rumours and things, though, that in training he looked amazing, and there were hopes that he was going to be the best of the Japanese bunch. But for whatever reason, we haven't got to see an awful lot of him. And the surprising thing is, I don't think at any stage in any of the games that he's played, you could, other than the ones where he was played out of position, where he was covering maybe at centre back and things, there was no time where he played that you could actually sort of pinpoint and say he didn't impress, or he didn't, he did anything wrong, kind of thing. And I think when you've got that rotation of that sort of, with Hatate out of the team, and there's kind of been Turnbull in for a game, Bernardo in for the Champions League, Home has had a couple of goes, but Iwata seemed to be the odd one out that wasn't really getting any sort of consideration at all. And
well, he should have been the one most ready, because he'd had that bedding in process. You know what I mean?
You would have thought so. You absolutely would have thought so. But it'll be interesting to see. He's come in, he's played 90 minutes tonight. He's neat and tidy. He's done nothing wrong. Does he warrant another game? I don't see that any of the other options are any more deserving of starting the next game. So I would expect him to start the next game. Will Brendan Rodgers pick him? That's probably one for us to wait and see. I think as well, boys, that he's kind of been pigeonholed as this absolute number 6 player. But I think we've seen enough in the last 3 times that we have seen him to suggest there's more to his game than that. So he had the assist and where I mistook him for Mikey Johnson.
Well, don't you worry about that.
Such was his sort of attacking threat on that breakaway. He had an opportunity tonight. You've seen the goal that he scored against Hearts. I think he's probably unfairly been sort of pigeonholed as he's the number 6. He's the defensive midfielder. That's all he can do.
Could you do, Terry? I mean, could you delete Tomoki's name and then put in, well, Turnbull's was until last week the joint top scorer in the league? Like, how come he's not a regular right now, like in the team? And then you could say, well, Bernardo, that's our Champions League guy. He played well at home to Atletico Madrid, or I think it was them. He played well at home to them. Like, what happened there? And then you could make the argument, well, Thiago Holm, I'm sure we've had this conversation. He looks a player, by the way. He looks like he's all right. We've kind of went round the houses with the position. Yet the one that really, when you look at it all, who came in with a reputation from Japan that exceeded, in my opinion, Kyogo's and Maeda's, in the sense that he was the current J-League Player of the Year and he'd worked with Ange, and maybe thanks to the impact Maeda and Kyogo had at Celtic, I think Iwata was the one you came in and went, fucking... Oh, I think I froze there.
No, yeah, you're back.
I'm back in the room, you naughty router. But I think, like, when you look at the impact that Maeda and Kyogo had, then when you dovetailed that with, obviously, Tomoki coming in, had played under Ange before, J-League current player of the year, I thought he came almost with the most sort of hype, because the other ones were kind of unknowns, if you like. I think it's been really weird that he's not been able to not just cement it even in the slightest, but so far from that, allow us to see what he can do in his standard position, his best position in the park. I hope this is more of what we're going to get from him. But again, it'll be the expense of others, but that's just the culture that we want at Celtic. We want to see competition in the team. Mikey Johnson was started tonight. Are you surprised that Rodgers didn't take, I don't want to say risk, because that'd be a bit far, but didn't take the plunge, shall we say, of starting with Mikey Johnson and James Forrest, the 2 wingers that had such a big impact at the weekend. Forrest with a brilliant goal, confidence high, and obviously Mikey Johnson, he'd raved about kind of essentially in the post-match and the pre-match conferences that have transpired since the game at the weekend. Did you think maybe Forrest would have got the nod as well? Or are you seeing him trying to find, when it comes to Palma, going, I need a boy. I need someone to be the boy, like the guy I turn to. You know what I mean? You know when you need someone to go, I've now pinpointed him as being, that's a Brendan man, right? Whether that's someone that Brendan identified or not, I think he's trying to make him feel, you're going to be in my team no matter what, because I believe in you. He had to have something like that from the pick and mix he got in the last summer window, mate. I'm not saying Palma was something that Rodgers said, came to the board with on a bit of paper. But you have to identify one, don't you, and get them on side. I think Palma's that guy for Rodgers.
There has to be one of the 8 or 9 players that we brought in that we can sort of. But no, I expected Palma to play again, and I think his performance tonight was night and day from the weekend as well. He took the corner for the first goal. He was involved in the second goal, the cross for O'Reilly. He took the penalty. He was involved in everything, and every time he got the ball, he was a real threat. And I think with these wide players, Bhoycie, what you tend to find is after the first season, defenders sort of get wise to them and they're able to work them out because they know what side they favour and things like that. But if you watch Palma, he can go in, he can come inside onto his right and look for the shot, or he can go outside and his ability with his left foot seems to be excellent as well. So he can go either way, and I think those abilities are going to make it harder for defenders to get wise to him and to stop him. We've talked about his numbers. His numbers are incredible. I know there's been some games where he has been quiet, but for the most part, out of the guys we've brought in this summer, he looks the one who is going to make a real dent in the first team. And I enjoyed watching him tonight. I think everything he did was positive. Maybe one concern I have about him, he does seem to be a bit of a card magnet as well. And we've already had him suspended in the Champions League. He got booked again tonight. I think he looks as if he's one of those all or nothing players, and everything he does is at his absolute maximum, including his tackles. And
let me take you up on that though. Is that not maybe one of the aspects the team's lacked a bit? Is a bit of that personality and character. Is it not time we had someone you go, Jesus? You know what I mean? Like at times you go, oh, don't do that. Don't do it. Oh, he's done it. I think at times there's something appealing in a team where it's more of a side's not just built of just 11 straight-laced, oh, they're all good players, they're all 7 out of 10s, and that's how they can. I think the team needs a bit of personality sometimes. I think he brings that aspect as well. And in a world of squares, particularly modern football, I mean, fucking hell, modern football right now is squares. You've got to respect, I mean, just very briefly on a different tangent, what Postecoglou's done, the reason he's getting all the praise is because he's playing completely outside the box to what everyone else is, right? He's just going, fuck you. It's called character, it's called personality. Folk are so alien to that now, they now think he's God. Whereas Postecoglou in the mid-2000s or the late 90s would have been left probably mid-table in that league with his tactics. He wouldn't have been that character. I think the Celtic teams lacked personalities over the last few years, to be honest with you, real ones that have got that wee bit of devilment. That's the word I was looking for. Devilment.
Yeah, he's a bit of a maverick.
A bit of that. I don't mind that.
But football, Bhoycie, I think it's a wee bit like life in general. I think.
Oh fuck! Philosophical Terry's coming out. Fucking hell! 2 years on the bus.
A lot of the games that you watch now, it's almost like the players are robots. Do you know what I mean? It's like they're programmed to do certain things. When you get the ball, you do this, and positions and all that kind of thing. And Palma does seem to be a bit of a throwaway to the sort of old-fashioned winger that you don't actually know what he's going to do. You don't know if he's going to come inside. You don't know if he's going to go outside. You don't know if he's going to trip over the ball. You don't know what he's going to do. But most of what he's done has been positive and has ended up in opportunities or goals for us, and long may that continue. He is the type of player that you want to see more of, type of player that you want on the ball. I was glad to see Tilio getting a half hour, because I didn't actually expect to see him back in a squad anytime soon after the manager's comments about him.
He was done.
But he got 30 minutes now. He struggled to get into it, but he looks pacey. I'll give him that. He looks as if he's got a real turn of pace. But again, we'll probably say that a few times. But you've got.
Go on, say he was direct when he got the ball. Say he was direct.
When the club has brought these players in, you want to at least get a look at them. You want to be able to make your own decision on whether you think they're any use or not.
That's fair. I tell you, again, I just don't see the progression there. I don't see what the pathway is. I don't know how you can go for it.
I don't see.
He was dismissed by Brendan in that presser recently, Terry. I'm talking about in his last two. One of the last two press. I'm sure it was the one leading up to this game. Yeah, he was out the team. It was so blunt. It was like he was sending a message. He's nowhere near it. Then suddenly there's this promotion.
That's why I was surprised to see him back on the bench.
But then the flip side is, if Martin O'Neill had done that back in the day, we'd have went genius mind games by O'Neill. Genius. Like, so I don't know which way I want to view it. My take on the double goal scorer tonight. If Rodgers only has this one way of playing, which I think's been accused, left, right, and centre, right, left, right, and centre in the live chat over the last few weeks, it's been that it's turgid, blah blah, and he's playing the only way he knows. That sort has been the rhetoric, right? So see if that is the case. I think what we've seen tonight, and I don't want it to be accused of he's anywhere near the level of, but I think profile-wise, is it any surprise that tonight being the way he is, got more sort of end product, shall we say, of the Brendan methods and the Brendan formation, the Brendan tactic, than what Moussa Dembele did. Being more of that focal point centre forward. And I wonder where Kyogo fits into all this. Now, we don't want to be hysterical here. Kyogo's a brilliant player. It's someone I absolutely love to death, right? As a Celtic player since he's came in. But the amount of touches he's had in the last 4 or 5 games has been stark in terms of how low. And that means if it's not 3 touches, you got a goal, though, we can all spin it into, hey, what else could you ask for? If he's not getting the goal, you're going, what did he do? Was involved in a hell of a lot tonight. Nothing more sort of validated than that second goal he scored. Firstly, the spin on that Callum McGregor pass, by the way, just very incidentally, was an absolute shambles. How good. That is how to use a slick surface. It is like it's like curling, mate. Kind of an ice rink. Just the way that bounced the first time out. And it's just spun in. It's completely caught there. It's went inside the fullback, inside the centre half. Good strength from O. Composed finish. And there's just a wee bit of me that looks at O and goes, that ball doesn't work for Kyogo. Because he can't, and it's not a slight on him in this in the slightest. But it's not a slight on him in terms of that physical play won't ever be his. But if we're going to be playing this Brendan setup, there's someone that kind of profile is similar to Moussa's. Is that naturally going to work better? I don't think he's got the same ability as Dembele. Let's not get mistaken here. But is it any surprise that he looked far more active, shall we say, and alive in the game throughout his whole time in the park than what Kyogo has in week after week, really recently, to be honest?
I think even that Motherwell game where we got a draw at home, was involved in stuff when he came on and was making things happen. I suppose if we're going to sit here and say that we think Iwata's probably done enough to stay in the team for the next game, it'd be very hard to make an argument that
I agree with that.
However, I fully expect to see Kyogo's name back on the team sheet for Rugby Park at the weekend. So,
do you though?
Yeah.
Are you convinced he'll be that quick to do that?
Yeah, I think so. I think he'll be back in.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure as that. I think he's making statements right now. I think there's for whatever reason, Brendan seems to have, I don't know, just escaped whatever.
It'll be an interesting routine
I was doing before.
It'll be an interesting team lineup. It will, of course. Definitely. It will to see around the guys that.
And that's credit to O, by the way.
Hey,
it's credit to O that it will be an interesting team lineup because it wasn't interesting before because it was just Kyogo by default. None of us would argue with it. Now I'm thinking, based on 2 goals, I think there's a conversation to be had, and I think you're right. It does make it more interesting come Sunday.
Yeah, it does. Absolutely. I expect Iwata to stay in. I don't expect O to stay in. Does Mikey Johnson stay in, or does Forrest get a go, or one of these other guys? Is Yang going to be out for, are we going to see less of him for a few weeks? It's just trying. I suppose it's trying to weigh up everything, all the sound bites that you're getting from the manager, then what you're seeing when these guys are getting the opportunity. But you know what? It wouldn't even surprise me if Turnbull comes back in midfield and James Forrest starts instead of Johnson. And
refreshing to see that competition, though, them taking advantage of opportunities given. Now, what we need to remember is as well, Brendan seems to have, to me, Terry, felt reluctant to make these sort of changes so far to his start lineup. I don't think he's had that much faith in what the backups have been that he's had available to him, whereas he's took the opportunity tonight, or he took the chance tonight, maybe through default because he had to make changes at the weekend, such was the deplorable first half display, but now finds himself going, well, fuck it, I'll be consistent, I'll give them the opportunity. It's suddenly guys that maybe weren't on his radar as much. I include O in that, by the way. So I don't think O is someone that's Rodgers been overly keen to give that many minutes to, or he's given that much of a fair crack of the whip to, particularly when you consider some very average Kyogo displays, or ineffective. Maybe not because Kyogo's been average, but just because he's not been utilised whatsoever. Either way, he's still not just jumped straight into all playing. But tonight he did well. And it's good to see other players getting the opportunity. I don't know where we're at with that one. Now we'll take it to current affairs. Obviously, last night the story broke with Miovski. I mean, the talk is he would cost more than what Scott Brown cost Celtic. Everyone shites themselves when they hear that. A record fee for a player. I'm like, it was 2007, mate. Like 2007, 16 years ago. I'd like to think we would spend more 17 years later on a player from the SPFL. You can't just say, the league's shite, everyone's shite in it. It just doesn't work for me. Miovski has 11 goals in 23 for his country, Macedonia. Is it Fyrom? Is that Fyrom? That's how it appears. He's got 4 European goals, 2 in the Europa League, 2 in the Conference League for Aberdeen. I've been pleasantly impressed. Not pleasantly. I've been slightly impressed by him when I've seen him. Is he a game changer signing? No. Does he bring more competition at a forward line that desperately needs it? Yeah, he does. And we've seen examples over the years where players have came from within our league and took their game to another level. It's just not an avenue Celtic have went down for so long that it's putting people up. I think Tumble's the latest one. And I think one of the reasons for our scepticism as such is there's a bias towards it as well. When Tumble plays a bad game or an anonymous game, everyone knows about it. Some of the players don't get treated with that same angle, I don't think. And I think that a lot of that is a bias towards the league. For me, Celtic spending £4 or £5 million on a footballer now, Terry, doesn't mean that they should be straight in the first team. Why? Why should it mean that? Alan Stubbs was £4 million in 1996. Even with inflation alone, that tells you that would just be a ludicrous thing if that meant you're guaranteed shoe into the Celtic first team in 2023 with the commercial revenues and all the other revenues that we bring. But Miovski, what he's done domestically, and also the fact he's adapted to Scottish football, tells me that someone I can understand would be a person of interest.
Well, so you've talked about bias there and biased against players from the SPL. But one thing you talked about before that it's kind of stayed in my head is we sometimes have bias depending on how much we actually spent on an individual. I think the first time we spoke about it, you were saying, do we judge Jota to a higher standard because we paid $6.5 million for him? And one wee thing that's kind of been in my head the last few weeks is Liam Scales. Is our expectation level of Liam Scales blinkered by the fact that he's Irish and he came from an Irish team and he cost 600 grand? Are we expecting less of him? Does he get elevated with?
I disagree. I think he had 2 years of
I'm
the
asking
opposite.
the question. I'm asking the
2
question.
years of the opposite, Terry. 2 years the opposite, not getting a fair opportunity because he's not. I was trying to think of an Italian version of Liam Scales there, but I couldn't. Scalzio.
There's been a few things creeping in the last couple of weeks just where he hasn't been perfect. And I suppose what I'm thinking is, if that was Carter Vickers in that scenario, would we be starting to criticise him because we paid big dough for Carter Vickers? Don't know. It's just something that's in my head. So where I'm going with that in the Miovski conversation is, if we brought this guy in for £5 million, what would the expectation level be of him?
I think he instantly challenges for the first team. I think he challenges the setup for the first team as well, whether he'd be a link-up player for Kyogo, whether there's a future for Kyogo out wide, where he was originally playing for Vissel Kobe. I've got two sides to this. There's an elitist view that will be, well, he would never have been Celtic standard back in the day. And I go to back in the day quite a lot. So I'd be a hypocrite if I didn't accept that aspect. But I also remember Scott McDonald's 700 grand signing. In that period where Strachan was there, we also signed a European Dutch international, Venegura Hesselink. We also signed Italy's most capped under-21 international, who'd cost AC Milan £10 million, Donati. But we sprinkled it with signings like Scott McDonald, 700 grand from Motherwell, Gary Caldwell, free transfer for Hibs. I hated him, by the way. But Paul Telfer, free transfer for Coventry. There's always been this mix of signings that you really thought, fuck, that means business. And then other ones that you go, okay, that's, that's came from our league, but integrate them in and let's see if they can make the step. We've signed too many unknowns for me that aren't going to that are going to need that adapting period, where players that have already been in Scotland don't. I'm not quite sure that the judgment that's getting made on Amiovski by loads of people on Twitter in a negative fashion is actually warranted. I think players step up once they join Celtic. I think that's been a standard course, has been do well at one of the big clubs or one of the Scottish clubs, then do one of the kind of big clubs, then you make your move to either a Celtic or Rangers. We'll see what you're made of. That's been a successful ladder, I would say, over the years, more than not. I think, I've got no doubts in my mind that Miovski, I watched him away to Frankfurt. I had that on the old Fire Stick. I'll just tell the truth. It was on the Fire Stick test. The only reason I watched. I wanted to get my 30 pence worth that day. But no, I had it on. In fact, it might be on BBC. It might be talk shite, actually. Anyway, I remember they played, and I was talking about it on the bus at the time. I was really impressed by how they set up, how they stuck to their shape really well, the sort of banks, and they didn't look too flustered by what should have been a far, far superior team to them. But as Miovski on his own up front, he looked good, mate. He looked good. I'm not sure that amount of negative feedback he gets is by people who've really watched that much of him. Not because I've watched hours and hours of him either. Not because I have either. Not because I have either. But I think to write him off when you've not seen much of him, I think it's a bit much. I think it's silly. Because his content's there. It's very readily available to watch what he's done in our league. So rather than just jumping the gun and saying he won't cut it, I would look at loads of other examples that have came for this league that have made it. And I would look at his international record. And I would look for the fee that we paid for him. And I would look at the clubs that were interested in him when Aberdeen got him. I'd start joining those dots. Then look what he's done on a European stage for Aberdeen as well, that they're rarely upon. I'd start going, could he go to that next level? Or is it 5 million that makes you shite yourself? Because if it's the 5 million that makes you shite yourself, that's where the downsizing really, really is there. That's where you really are accepting Celtic not to be the force they once were. 5 million now should be what 1.5 million was in the 90s. End of.
The limited amount of time that I've seen him, he looks decent. He looks like a good finisher. I suppose the question I would ask is, does he go straight into our starting 11 and make our starting 11 stronger? And I haven't seen enough of him to say yes, he does. And then my thoughts are, if we're going to spend 5 million on someone who doesn't automatically make us stronger, lump a bit more on top and get somebody who is going to make us stronger. Somebody who is.
Is that where the conditioning comes in? The 5 million is a crazy amount of money.
I think for somebody who's not going to get into the first 11, because I mean, look at the players we've signed. We've signed this summer. We're looking at Palma, and we're convincing ourselves that he. And I don't think he's made our 11 stronger. I think the position we were left in with Jota going, I think we've said he will prove to be a more than adequate replacement. He will match Jota in terms of goals and assists. But because of the fee that we paid for him and the fee that we paid for Nawrocki, we immediately look at those as first-team players. And if we go out and spend 5 million on a striker, I don't think he can be the third-choice striker.
Let's flip it. Brendan's went, I'll pay 5 million for him. I want to pay 5 million for him. I want us to pay 5 million for him. That elevates him from this.
Well, listen, if the manager wants him, this is
the thing no one's factoring in.
But then if the manager wants him and brings him in, then I'd expect him to play him.
Exactly, mate. And this is what I'm trying to say. This is the big difference. If you're then getting brought in, and this is what we're expecting. Fucking hell, I sound like a broken record after the summer.
Well, he's talked about a couple of quality additions.
If he's one of them, he'll fucking play. And if he wants to play a 5 million guy, let's see what happens. I mean, David Kelly comes in, he says he has a shocking record. David, I want you to quantify that. It's brilliant putting laughter faces with emojis at the end, and you're entitled to your opinion, of course. Miovski, 2 Conference League goals and 2 Europa League goals, which you didn't mention in your previous comment. 11 goals and 23 internationals for Macedonia. You didn't mention that in your other statistical comment. And normally, David, the reason I bring up your comments is because they're so factually accurate. But tonight you've decided to be selective with them. That's poor patter. So putting a laughter face doesn't really mean much to me, David, because I actually look at the Miovski one and I go, if this is going to be the month where Brendan gets guys that he wants, then fucking go get Miovski, for example. I like what I've seen from him when he's played against us. I liked what I've seen, particularly in that away game against Frankfurt, which was IPTV, the BBC, whatever it may have been. I thought he was good.
What age is he, Bhoycie? I'm just checking what age
24.
24. So he's not a young fella. Well, he is a young fella, but in terms 24? Of football, he's not a kid. He's not a kid. He's not a kid.
See, he's coming in to impact the first team then, surely.
He's ready for first team football.
Yeah. I think if we pay 5 million for an Aberdeen player, they're coming in to play the first team, no?
I would expect so.
Why is there such a snobbery now that we've got no right to have whatsoever?
Because I haven't seen enough of the guy.
So what team? We get told this is the. No, let's get real here. I'm gonna pull this up, right? Because see what we say. Well, let's go at the next level. Celtic. Everyone goes, well, what's the next level? How could you get up there?
So the next level for me in terms of centre forward is he has to be better than Kyogo and take Kyogo's place. Does Miovski do that? Not for me.
Could he challenge Kyogo for the jersey? I would like to think that would be part of the decision-making process. Or is there an acceptance, maybe 2 up top, particularly domestically, might be the future for Celtic?
Well, don't spend 5
2 strikers can't work.
Don't spend 5 million on Miovski. Go and spend 10 on someone who takes Kyogo's place.
We can't get those players. We've been told it all season. Can't get them.
We can if we look hard enough.
Wait, right, we can get them now. So players are willing to leave these big leagues.
Mr. Dembele came. We got.
I agree. By the way, I'm playing devil's advocate. Terry, because a lot of the time you're seeing we can't get this guy. I think looking in-house is something. Am I not right? Rodgers had kind of alluded to in the summer as well. I think he was talking about Scottish players, but he said in the league he felt it was essential. There was a core part of that. I'm not as against this signing as others are. I think they were pleasantly surprised by Miovski. You know that?
No, I've been if he comes in, I'd be more than willing to back him. I just don't see him being an upgrade on what we've already got. Not on what I've seen of him, but I haven't seen an awful lot of him. And I'm looking.
We've only got 2 strikers right now, so we need 3
for upgrades.
But we need 3 strikers, yeah. Oh, we can't go with 2 again. Oh, come on.
We need 3 strikers. We need 3 strikers.
Yeah.
But
he's not going to bring much to the party. Oh, who came for 2.1 million for the Korean League at 21 years old with nothing like the record internationally in Europe, obviously not in European football, or the experience of Scottish football that Miovski has, makes more sense to be number 2 striker. Okay. I can't argue with that.
I just don't see him taking us up a notch.
He will not take up a notch. That's fair enough.
I don't see him. I mean, look at the goals Kyogo scored last season, the season before. Does he get more than that? If he plays every single week for us, does he get more than that? Doubtful. I'd rather put the money down, add to it, and get someone so that person comes in and they take Kyogo's place because they're better than him. I don't see this lad being any better than Kyogo.
I look forward to seeing Miovski joining Celtic. I fucking hope he does now. He's gonna be my new Giakoumakis. I needed a replacement for Giakoumakis in my life. I'll be, I'll
be surprised if it happens, to be honest.
I think it will.
It's not a day less happening.
Wait the night. Yep, it's definitely happening. Sosie just told me it's on.
I tell you what is definitely happening. Man City have lost tonight. That's 4 games in a row. Man City haven't won in the EPL. It's just a wee reminder that it isn't it isn't always easy to win games of football,
No.
no matter how good your side is and how much of an advantage you've got over the rest of the playing field. You've still got to turn up and do it. 4 games in a row.
That's a shame. Well, we've been 2 years in a row on the bus, Terry. I know it's 25 to 11, so I better let you go. But a big thank you to everyone. 2 years. 2 years of the bus. We're fast approaching 1 million views. I don't fuck knows how many audio ones we've had, but let's say 200,000 of those. A lot of fallouts, a lot of good banter, a lot of parties,
A lot of good people.
a lot of friends made
Lot of good
along the
people.
way. There's been
Come and
t-shirts,
gone.
football shirts, one night out. It's all been good fun, man. It's been brilliant. I can't believe that's
Shambles.
been 2 years. What's that?
A total shambles.
Hey, listen, mate. A lot of life's a shambles. A lot of life is a shambles. But yeah, thoroughly enjoyed 2 years, man. It's been class. And just you look at the numbers. You're nearly 1 million. Look at these other ones that get a wee bit noisy at times. Look how long they've been about for, really. Look how long they've been about for, really. That want to take pops. I doubt any of them had 1 million views in 2 years. In fact, a lot of them don't have 1 million views yet. I've thoroughly enjoyed the last 2 years, Terry. And who knows where it will take us yet. I think once we do the 1 million views, I'll do the next bus stop episode. It's been a while since I've done one of them. So there might be some shots fired there once we hit the 1 million, because my ego will be back. I'm only joking. Anyway, Celtic 4-1 tonight, still top of the table. It looks like the Huns just got away with a wee 1-0 win at Tynecastle. So fair fucks to them. Stephen Naismith, I mean, he's
We'll
hardly.
just have to do it ourselves.
Stephen Naismith is not the Miovsky of management. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, as always, keep an eye on this board, and we will see you all later. Good night.
Right.